Black-necked swans do not choose nesting sites randomly. The first survival decision begins before the eggs even exist. Astra and Orion scan the wetland not for comfort but for risk distribution. Open water means visibility but also exposure to aerial predators. Dense reeds provide cover but reduce reaction time. They choose a hybrid zone: shallow water, dense vegetation, but with controlled visibility lanes. This is not a safe place. It is a place where threats can be detected just early enough to react. The presence of a marsh harrier immediately confirms one thing. This territory is already within a predator's hunting map. Astra lowers altitude. Orion switches from glide to controlled scan. At this stage they are not defending, they are evaluating survivability probability. The second decision happens underwater. Orion disturbs the surface layer. This is not feeding behavior. This is hydrological testing depth, current, and more importantly, detection of subsurface predators. The brief shadow below confirms a critical risk. Egg predation is not only aerial, it is vertical from below. Despite this, Astra selects the location. Because in wetland ecosystems, zero risk zones do not exist, only zones where threats can be delayed. And delay is survival. Nest construction begins with a very specific objective: buoyancy, insulation, concealment. Orion gathers wet plant material. Astra arranges structure. This division of labor is not random. The male maintains environmental interaction. The female controls microstructure. The nest is not static. It is a floating system, which means its biggest threat is not collapse, but instability over time. The first night confirms phase 1, structural survival, but now the real pressure begins. Once the first egg is laid, the entire behavioral system changes. Immediately, Orion reduces patrol radius, from wide surveillance to tight perimeter control. This is a critical shift, from territory defense to point defense. Astra begins egg manipulation. Rotation is not optional. It prevents embryo adhesion to shell membranes. Failure to rotate means embryo death. At this stage, survival is no longer about avoiding predators. It is about maintaining internal biological processes. Environmental pressure escalates. Wind introduces mechanical instability. Astra lowers body mass directly onto the nest. Not for warmth but for structural compression. She becomes the stabilizer. Orion positions himself against the current. His role is no longer surveillance. It is hydrodynamic disruption. He reduces wave impact before it reaches the nest. Rain introduces a different threat. Not impact but thermal loss and saturation. Wet nests lose insulation. Astra compensates by increasing contact surface area, maximum body coverage, no exposure. Then comes the predator again. But behavior changes. The marsh harrier descends lower, which means one thing: it is testing vulnerability thresholds. Orion escalates immediately. No warning phase, direct aggression, water impact, wing expansion, sound projection. This is not an attack. This is risk amplification. He is increasing the perceived cost of engagement. The predator retreats, but not because it failed, because the energy exchange is no longer favorable. At night, a different survival phase begins. Temperature drops, no predators visible, but this is one of the most dangerous stages. Because survival now depends on time endurance. Astra cannot leave, not even breathing. Heat loss over time is cumulative. Even small interruptions reduce embryo viability. Orion maintains vigilance with minimal movement. Energy conservation becomes critical, because defense may be required at any moment. Days pass, and then the first internal signal appears. Egg vibration. This marks a complete transition in survival dynamics, from passive protection to active emergence risk. Embryos begin moving, which increases internal oxygen demand, which increases vulnerability. Astra adjusts incubation pressure. She reduces downward force. This prevents shell compression during internal pipping. She is no longer protecting the egg. She is protecting the exit process. At this exact stage, predator pressure becomes most dangerous. Because eggs are no longer sealed, they are exposed systems. The marsh harrier returns again, lower, more direct. Astra cannot fully cover the eggs anymore. If she presses down, she risks crushing the hatching chick. If she lifts, she exposes the nest. This is a biological conflict with no perfect solution, so Orion compensates. He switches to maximum aggression. Water sprint, wing spread, forward projection. This behavior has one goal: force predator trajectory change before attack commitment. The predator hesitates. That hesitation is survival. At the same time, inside the egg, pressure builds. The chick begins external pipping. Cracks expand, shell integrity decreases. Astra removes debris only when detached. She never breaks the shell. Because forced hatching increases mortality risk. Then the first major breakthrough. The shell opens. The membrane is exposed. This is one of the most critical seconds in the entire life cycle. Because the chick is now alive but not independent, exposed but not mobile. Wind hits again. Orion repositions instantly. He becomes a barrier. Astra lifts just enough to avoid pressure, but maintains heat. This balance is exact. Too much pressure, chick dies. Too little coverage, chick cools. Then it happens, the beak emerges. This is not just a physical moment. It is a respiratory transition point. The chick shifts from internal oxygen exchange to external breathing. Failure here means immediate death. Astra does not intervene, because the chick must complete muscular activation independently. At the same time, predator returns. This is peak danger. Orion launches full defense. Not warning. Not deterrence. Full commitment. The predator breaks. And in that same window, the chick breaks through. The head emerges. The chick is now born, but not safe, because hatching is not survival. It is exposure. The chick collapses, energy depleted, muscles weak, thermoregulation non-existent. Astra immediately shifts behavior. She does not press, she creates a thermal dome. This traps heat, reduces airflow, protects from evaporation cooling. At the same time, she continues incubating the second egg. This is dual-phase survival. One organism outside, one still inside. Orion shifts again, now closer, now tighter, now fully defensive, because from this point forward, the system becomes even more fragile. The second egg begins to respond, which means the entire survival cycle will repeat, but with higher risk. Because now, there is something on the nest that can be taken, a moving target, a weak body, a visible life, and in the wild, visibility is vulnerability. The moment the chick leaves the shell, survival does not improve. It becomes harder. Nova, the first chick, is not born ready. It is born unfinished. Its body is covered in wet down, which means one thing: no insulation. Without heat from Astra, Nova loses body temperature rapidly. In cold wetland conditions, hypothermia can begin in minutes. So Astra maintains continuous contact, but this creates a trade-off. She cannot move freely. She cannot feed normally. She cannot escape quickly. At the same time, the second egg is still in incubation, which forces Astra into dual priority conflict. Maintain heat for a living chick, while sustaining development for an unborn one. This is where survival becomes unstable. Within hours, Nova attempts its first movement, not walking, not swimming, just lifting its head. Motor control is incomplete. Neck muscles are weak. Balance is unstable. This is critical, because mobility delay increases exposure time. A chick that cannot move cannot escape, so Astra initiates early behavioral stimulation. She does not feed yet. She does not push. She simply creates micro movements around the chick. This triggers reflex activation. Nova responds, it lifts, falls, it lifts again. Each attempt strengthens neuromuscular connection. But outside the nest, the environment is already changing. Water level shifts slightly, wind increases surface motion, and then Orion reacts. Not to a visible predator, but to a pattern change: surface disturbance, direction, low frequency. This indicates something moving beneath. Unlike birds, aquatic predators do not rely on visibility. They rely on proximity. Orion moves immediately. He places himself between open water and the nest. This is interception positioning. Seconds later, the threat confirms itself. A large predatory fish breaks just below the surface. Not attacking yet, but tracking. At this stage, Nova cannot swim, cannot dive, cannot even stabilize. If it enters water now, it dies. So Astra delays water introduction. This is critical behavioral timing. Many water birds enter water within hours, but here Astra waits, because predator pressure is active. This delay increases safety, but creates a new risk: energy depletion. Nova has no food yet. Its internal reserves are limited. So the longer it stays inactive, the weaker it becomes. This is the first survival contradiction. Move too early, die from predation. Wait too long, die from exhaustion. The decision must be precise, and then pressure escalates. A marsh harrier returns. But this time, it does not circle. It dives lower, not testing, committing. This changes everything. Aerial predators target movement, and Nova, unstable, exposed, is now visible. Astra cannot lift fully, because Nova is still beneath her, so she uses partial concealment. Her body lowers, wings expand slightly. Breaking outline, distorting shape. This reduces visual clarity from above. At the same time, Orion launches. Full speed, no hesitation. This is not deterrence anymore, this is active interception. He does not aim for contact. He aims for trajectory disruption. The hawk adjusts mid-air, pulls up, circles once, then leaves. But this is not victory, because each exposure event increases predator awareness. Now the nest is marked, and marked nests get revisited. Immediately after, Astra makes a critical decision. She initiates first water entry, not because it is safe, but because staying longer is now more dangerous. She steps off the nest slow, controlled. Nova follows. Not by instinct, but by necessity. The first contact with water is shock, cold, unstable, unfamiliar. Nova collapses forward, partially submerged. This is a near-fatal moment, because water saturation reduces remaining insulation. And weak chicks cannot correct posture quickly. Astra reacts instantly. She does not lift the chick. She does not carry it. Instead, she positions her body to block drift, reducing water movement around Nova. Creating a micro-zone of stability, Nova struggles, legs activate, weak, uncoordinated, but enough. It floats, barely. This is the second transition point from land survival to aquatic survival. Now the threat changes, from aerial to multi-directional. Within minutes, the fish returns closer faster. Water movement increases. Orion detects it first. He lunges downward, strikes the surface, creates turbulence. This is not an attack. This is sensory disruption. Predatory fish rely on vibration detection. Orion floods the system with noise. The fish loses targeting precision and retreats, but only temporarily. Meanwhile, Nova attempts independent swimming. Short bursts, irregular, energy inefficient. Each movement costs more than it gains, so Astra introduces a critical behavior. Body shattering. She positions Nova alongside her body, reducing drag, reducing exposure. This also hides Nova's outline from above. Now survival becomes group-based, not individual, but danger escalates again. From the shoreline, a new predator. A river otter. Unlike birds, it does not hesitate. It does not circle at closest distance directly. Low profile. Fast water displacement is minimal. Detection time is short. Orion reacts instantly. He intercepts, not from distance, but at close range. He cuts the angle, blocks access path. The otter surfaces. Faces him. This is different, because this predator does not fear size. It calculates opportunity. And Nova is still weak. If separation occurs, the chick is taken. Orion escalates. He expands wings, raises profile, moves forward aggressively. The goal is not attack. The goal is space denial. The otter tests once. Moves closer. Orion closes the gap. Faster, more forceful. Water splashes. Distance collapses. The otter hesitates. And that hesitation again is survival. It dives, disappears. But like all intelligent predators, it remembers, and it will return. By now, Nova is near exhaustion. Swimming is still inefficient. Heat loss continues. Energy reserves drop, so Astra makes the next critical move. She stops completely and allows Nova to climb partially onto her back. This is not constant behavior, it is situational, used when energy collapse risk exceeds predation risk. From here, Astra becomes transport, heat source, barrier. Orion moves even closer. At this stage, the family unit compresses, because distance equals vulnerability. Hours pass, Nova improves slightly. Swimming stabilizes, breathing normalizes, but threats do not decrease, they multiply, above below, across the surface, because now there is movement, and movement is the strongest trigger in the wild. This is the reality of early survival, not strength, not speed, not intelligence, but timing, positioning, and relentless adaptation. Nova's alive, but survival is not secured. It has only entered the next stage, where every movement will be tested again.